welcome to Like Maria, and it's another of our Zoom videos on Macbeth, and today we're talking about the differences between the source material and Shakespeare's play. So Maria, can you start us off? In a previous video you said that Macbeth is based on a book by Holinshed. What are the sort of differences between that source material and the play itself?
So yes, Holinshed's Chronicles, which Shakespeare drew on, particularly for Macbeth, history chronicles, but also some elements of kind of myth in there. So I think before I mentioned that some elements of kind of Robin Hood-esque type history. But generally speaking, Shakespeare went back and got some reasonable history details from these chronicles. But he did tweak them, obviously. So things, for example, like at the banquet and Banquo's ghost and Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking and suicide, those don't appear in the original chronicles. One of the things that is definitely very different in these chronicles is King Duncan in Holinshed's Chronicles is apparently a very soft and gentle king and a little bit ineffectual, really. And Macbeth, even though he is brutal and becomes embroiled in increasing amounts of evil, he is a very efficient king, and he rules for up to 10 years. And he'd seen to actually improve in some ways on Duncan's leadership. Now, of course, Shakespeare wasn't able to give this impression in his play of a weak and feeble king, because this would have upset James rather. So he wanted to portray Duncan as a rather strong and capable king, which is what he did. And of course, this makes the audience side with Duncan much more and perceive evil straight away in Macbeth. So there were some significant differences there.
Now, it seems that women are a significant part of the source material. So how does Shakespeare use that in the play?
Well, as I said, he brings in Lady Macbeth in terms of her going mad and her sleepwalking and the suicide. And really these things are for dramatic effect. But one of the things that he does agree with Holinshed about is the fact that this woman in particular is very strong. Now we know that when we read Holinshed, he talks about women almost being equal to men. He says they are equal in labour and painfulness and speaks of them sometimes going to war. And there's a passage I'd like to read out to you about women going to war, because I think it's very significant context here for Macbeth. So Holinshed's Chronicles states that women slew the first living creature that they found, in whose blood they not only bathed their swords, but also tasted thereof. So he describes these women as rather bloodthirsty and very much equal to men in their exploits on the battlefield. And I think here, particularly with the imagery of blood, and it's Lady Macbeth who goes and smears blood on the guards at the door, etc. So I think, she is shown as a feisty female.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other characters that we should know about?
So I mentioned Banquo's ghost. That's an introduction and again for dramatic effect. But of course, Shakespeare had to be particularly careful about Banquo and how he was portrayed. In the original source material, Banquo is an accomplice to Macbeth, and he joins up with Macbeth and some other nobles to go off and kill the king. Now, this was a bit tricky for Shakespeare because King James I was actually descended from Banquo and could make connections back to a character in his ancestry that was effectively Banquo. So Shakespeare had to be very careful. He had to distance Banquo from the deed and in fact make Banquo the innocent victim. So he was really in the business of protecting his own livelihood and his own life in the way that he changed this. So that's probably one of the more significant bits of the plot that he manipulated in order to tell a rather different story.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's some excellent context there for students to include in their essays, in their writing about Macbeth. But that's it for today. Thank you to Maria for talking to us about Macbeth, and thank you to everyone for watching. Bye-bye.